Hello everybody, I'm Ard, and welcome back to another episode of Minecraft Enigmatica 2 Expert. Last week, we delved into the very beginnings of the magic side of the quest book, and got started on Thaumcraft, Astral Sorcery, and Botania. Today, we're going to dive back into the mechanical side of the fence and get started on Immersive Engineering to try to solve some of our basic starting issues here. One of the biggest, namely being a source of RF power for all of the non-IndustrialCraft machines. To do that, we want to start by making a water mill, but we can't, as normal, do anything simple. So the water mill requires building coke ovens, because we need a ton of creosote and not actually coke. So we can start on that in a little bit. Right now, though, we should probably go tick off one of the big check marks on our list and get that out of the way, because I stopped being lazy and did some trading with some villagers a little bit ago. That's right, I'm referring to the Ender Book, which we now actually have enough emeralds to make. So let's go get that done and cross that off our list and show you how this works. And that's done, and we can scratch that straight off the list. So, the way the Ender Book works is you can basically come anywhere you want within a dimension, right-click it to open it, and say, give a waypoint a name like My Base, hit New. And from then on out, you can just open up the book, click My Base, it'll tell you how far away it is, and spend experience to send you back. So we'll come right up here, click this, and we teleported right back to where we set our waypoint. Pretty useful when you're traveling a long ways across the world. The further away you go, the more experience it costs to transport across the planet. It can't go between dimensions, but it can go within a single dimension. So you can't go from the Nether to the overworld, but you can go from your Nether portal inside the Nether to wherever you want inside the Nether itself. So the other thing related to experience that I built was a XP faucet and XP drain, because I had some accidents while I was out exploring and I got killed a few times. So the XP drain, you just stand on it and it sucks all your XP out, and that way you can't lose it and you can bank it in a tank for later. Flip the switch next to the faucet and it rains out XP orbs and you can get it right back. So while doing this, I also realized I kind of led you guys astray on one thing. I made mechanism tanks earlier because they're fairly easy to upgrade once you're at mechanism, but they do not hold nearly as much as the thermal expansion tanks do. The second tier thermal expansion tank holds as much as the top level non-creative mechanism tank. One of the big things mechanism tanks let you do is they have auto input and output, and they can be used as buckets, which I wasn't using in the earlier episode and I should have been. The other thing that I did in between episodes was I basically swapped out my two casting tables with both smart inputs and built some ducts finally, and have them auto outputting under the floor here. So down there you can see the line of ducts, pulling everything out of all four of these and into this chest. So that makes things a little bit more automated. Still not all the way there, but at least makes using the smeltery a little bit nicer to use. So let's get started on Immersive Engineering though, because I want to get these coke ovens done because they can take a bit to get going. So the coke oven is basically just 27 of these coke bricks. You make them in batches of 3, so we need 9 of these at a time. I'm going to make 2 full coke ovens. I've already gathered all the materials, which are just bricks, which are cooked clay, porcelain clay, which is just bone meal and clay together, and a bunch of sandstone, which we have because I was originally going to use it on my roof, and now I don't know what I'm going to do with my roof. I don't really like that color. I'm probably going to reevaluate and try to figure out what I want to do with it. So let's just come in here and make a ton of coke bricks. And done. Real simple. And I think I'm just going to slam the coke ovens in this back corner for now. So we need to dig out a fairly sizable hole. Okay, and then we'll just embed the coke oven right here. So they're pretty simple to make. You just lay them out as a big cube. I can't remember if the enter spot has to be empty with these or not. I'm gonna... I guess we'll find out. And then, oh, I forgot the engineer's hammer though. Okay, once you have the engineer's hammer, it should just be right click, and nope, it looks like it has to be full. Yep, and that makes the coke oven. Let's go put the other one together real fast. And that's 2 coke ovens. So These can take a long time to cook. I don't really want to have to babysit these things, so I'm going to want to have them auto inputting and outputting stuff. So first things first, let's toss a torch back there just to make sure the area is lit up. And then let's put in some ducts. Let's see, that duct plus this duct. So fluid duct to get out the fluids. The creosote. Item duct to input it. Let's see, we need a drawer. And then we want to pull from the drawer because we're going to put a bunch of wood in here. And then one last item duct to pull out the end products. And then we'll put a tank on there and another drawer. Tank and drawer. Okay, so what we're actually going to cook in here is wood. We're going to make charcoal and not... Whoops. We're going to make charcoal and not coke because it also makes creosote and it cooks just fine, and we can use the charcoal in our generator for now and for other uses later. It's going to fill up this side and then it should hopefully fill up the other side, and then the coke oven should be good to go for a while, and they will auto extract the charcoal when it finishes and the creosote into the tank. So we'll just wait a second for this to cook because this will take a second. And now you see the charcoal there, and it's gone, and the tank is empty, but now we have creosote over here. So now that we have a tank of creosote, and once we get that starts filling up a bit, I can start working on the windmill. So I'll check back in a little bit. Alright, so while the charcoal keeps processing over there with the creosote, I'm going to actually go make another machine for the IndustrialCraft section to help us with the next step after that with Immersive Engineering making the windmill. So what we're going to make is the block cutting machine. And the block cutting machine basically makes it so we can process wood much more efficiently. It's pretty simple. It's just a basic machine casing, a circuit, and an electrical motor. Pretty much all stuff we've seen before, and I already made them, so we'll just dump that out. The other thing we need to make is a block cutting blade, which is just a whole bunch of iron plates and a stone. So let me go grab a stone real fast. And we just throw these in here. The different types of saw blades basically cut through different levels of materials, so this basically goes up to anything softer than a diamond, so basically all metals. I already put a chest and a duct in here to get the area ready, so we can just put this in here and the power cable behind it. Put that down there, hop down here for a second to go throw a servo on this, just because this is going to produce more than it can hold to begin with. And we can pop back out of there and slap the walls back in place. Okay, so we just open up the block cutter like this. You see how it has a big huge thing because it says there's no blade or it's too weak. So we just put the blade in and that goes away. And now it has power and we can throw a whole bunch of logs into it. And instead of being a 2 logs to 2 or 1 log to 2 planks, it becomes 1 log to 4 planks. And this will help us because we need a whole lot of wood to make the windmill. So the windmill takes 8 blades each, which requires 2 planks and some sticks each. But the reality is we don't want 1 windmill, we want 6. We want to put up 2 arrays of 3 each, and we're going to put it inside a compact machine to store it in a single box in a wall, just like the rest of this stuff. But that's getting ahead of ourselves here, and we'll get to that in a little while. Oh, and while staring at this, I just realized this is a good time to show you guys how the time in the bottle works, because this is going pretty slow. You can see really slow like that. So come out here, click it once, does that. Click it up to 5 times and it does that. And we come back in here and you can see all of a sudden it's outputting extremely quickly. It'll wear off in a couple seconds, but it's good for a quick burst of a small amount of items. Alright, now that we have a bunch of planks, we can just come over here and grab our big creosote tank that has a bunch of creosote in it right now, and walk this over to the workbench. So, to make the tree to planks, all we do is put in a whole bunch of planks and grab the tank and toss it in the center. And that just makes the planks. And we just toss all these in here and take them all right back out. So that used up most of our stuff. And then I'm going to save the recipe for later. But this is the upside because we can use a tank instead of a bucket for this. So you can do a whole bunch at once. The other upside, not just to the windmills that we can now make chests pretty easily, because that's the hard recipe was to make wooden tough tool rods in the Tinker's Construct work table, and instead we can use treated planks, which are now extremely cheap to make, now that we just have it passively making off of the charcoal generation and later coal coke generation. So let's just make a whole bunch of the windmill blades now, and let's get on with this. Alright, that made enough for 4 of our windmills. We'll still need to wait for a bit more for creosote before we can do the rest. But this is at least gets a start and shows you what we need to do. Let's take a look inside the quest book for the Immersive Engineering gate so we can close this out. And pick up our fluid pump, which now we need to go take that in the nether to go pump lava for the next part of IndustrialCraft, but we'll get to that next episode. But we'll come in here and go into Immersive Engineering. We'll open this up, take our stuff, and then we'll clear out the other things we did. And where is it? And now the next thing we need to make is the Kinetic Dynamo, which is what you hook the windmills up to generate power. So the Kinetic Dynamo is just a big huge copper coil block, iron and redstone. It's not too hard to make, it's just kind of tedious to make because it's just a bunch of copper wire, which is just snipping this or making the metal press. We're gonna have to snip it for now because we don't have power to power the metal press, but it's just a bunch of tedious work. So let me go make the parts for that. Alright, and with that we've got the Kinetic Dynamo made. So let's go back into the quest book real fast and go claim that, and then let's open up the loot chest to see if we got anything interesting. And I just realized I made the windmill and not the watermill, so I guess we're doing both of these. Well, that's fine. So let's look at the loot chests. Oh, well that's fancy. And a shulker, big shulker box from the looks of it. That's questionable. And Horn of the Wild. So the Horn of the Wild basically just breaks all the grass in the area around you and all the plants. It has some uses, but I don't know for what in this pack. I used it a bunch in regrowth, but mostly the canopy horn to break leaves. But that's what it does. Not that exciting. The monocle, however, that's kind of exciting. I mean, let's be clear, folks. The monocle, however, is just for being fancy. And I guess this purple crystal shulker box is just going to be our trophy case for the time being, because that's what it looks useful for right now. I have to find a better spot for it than just right here by the door, though. Alright, so I hooked up the windmill off camera because it took a lot of finagling to do to get it to work right and to make me happy with how I set it up. You can see it's placed up there on top of the Kinetic Dynamo. It's not very well hidden, it's just kind of slapped in there. But I did that because, let me climb to the top of this and show you what I did. Under here, there's actually a whole line of leadstone flux ducts with our thermal dynamics power cables, and on top of those are structural duct covers to hide them. I'm not entirely happy with how this turned out overall, because as you can see, some of the log placements look wrong now because they're hiding ducts down here. But this is what I'll have to live with for now if I want to leave the windmill up here. I could possibly shove this in here, but then it'll show on the inside of the wall, and I'm just not sure how I feel about that at all right now. So, running down to the basement, you can see I dug out another tunnel here, which is where this actually sneaks in at the bottom of the pillar outside and drops down into the floor. Like you can see, it's down the bottom of this pillar and comes down here and comes into a cyclic battery. I use the cyclic battery just because it's dirt cheap right now. It's one of the cheapest batteries you can make at the start of this game. It's just 9 redstone, some clay, and some glass, and it holds a relatively small amount of power, but at least gets us some power. So now we can continue on with the next step. So now we can move on to things that actually require RF power, which is the whole point of this exercise anyways, although I failed to make the water wheels. We'll still do that. Water wheels are super boosted for power in this mod pack, and it's really easy to just toss 6 of them into a tiny compact machine inside a little box like right next to this, and just have a massive power source all really early in the game. But we'll get to that in probably next episode at this point now. Alright folks, so all that work made me hungry. How about y'all? So let's finally talk about making that kitchen. And to make the kitchen, we should talk about why we're making that kitchen. So the first thing you might have noticed is that my hearts are not red. Some of them are yellow, some of them are orange. And that's because this pack is running a mod that increases your hearts based off of the number of different foods that you've eaten. So if we go into my food box here, you can see that this says eaten, assisted in adding hearts, blah blah blah, not eaten, yada yada yada. And they also have a nutrition value, so fruit, grains, fruits, some give multiples, different percents, some are better than others. This Plowman's Lunch is one of the best ones. And it has the nutrition percentages because we also have another mod that requires a balanced diet. The higher these numbers are, if they're all up to above, I believe, 90%, you gain a buff. If they're too low, you gain a debuff. So right here you can see I have toughness 3 and resistance pretty much at all times. These will tick down, but then immediately go right back up to 30 seconds after a little bit. It's because I have eaten well in a couple of these categories, these two right here. So that's generally how that works, and that's generally why between these two things, why we want to have a very varied diet. So as you can see, I've eaten most of the foods here. But what we do have available are a humongous host of recipes from Pam's Harvest Craft and Animania and a few other choices. There are a lot of food options. And in this as well, to aid that, there's Cooking For Blockheads, which are all of these, which lets you build a kitchen and helps you make all the things. So like this cooking table right here, this lets you build anything that you have the ingredients stored within the other kitchen units to make. The oven lets you cook them as if it's a furnace and store some of your tools in it. The refrigerator stores food and allows a couple of options available, or a couple of upgrades to make it better. The sink provides water, but this got nerfed because this was an infinite water source that used to be really easy to make, and now it is not easy to make at all. It has, of course, some really high-end items now. So there are better water sources, but none that we can use in the kitchen anymore. Yeah, but all of these things work together as long as they're more or less connected by the same general space. So as you can see, I've already made all the pieces I want for my kitchen for right now. Most of it's pretty easy. It was almost all of it was like terracotta and stone. In this case, you had to make the Cooking For Blockheads books, which requires diamonds and actually cooking a book inside a furnace. Just seems, appropriate if you ask me. But it was like that and iron and like really basic things like chests and whatnot. So most of it was relatively simple to make and wasn't all that hard. So let's go throw this all up there real fast and I'll show you what I mean. So one of the things you might notice right here is that I have this flux duct exposed because I'm going to put the oven on it. And I'm putting that on it because one of the upgrades we made is the heating unit, which allows us to use energy to heat up the oven, because normally it requires fuel to burn to do it. So we'll come in here, we'll grab the heating upgrade, and we will plug that in. So now it's on. Right here we can store some of our cooking elements from Pam's Harvest Crafts, like the bakeware goes right there, the saucepan goes right there, the pot goes right here, and the skillet goes right here. And these will be automatically used in any other recipe we use. So now let's throw a counter here and a counter here, and let's put our cooking table there, and another counter and a corner piece, counter, and then we'll put a refrigerator in the corner. So the refrigerator just acts as storage. Pretty much makes sense. It has a couple of upgrades though. It has the ice unit, which automatically creates snow and ice to be used in recipes, and just now has the little ice tray like a refrigerator at home would have. And the preservation upgrade, which stops it from using the last item in the slot, which lets you use it as basically makes it easier to automate storing things inside of it. As well as this, the counters all have storage as well, and anything put in any of these will be used in any of the recipes we have. Up to also are the tool racks, which we can put right here and right here and right here to store the other tools we have, like the knife from Animania to make cheese and meats, the knife from Actually Editions, which is used in some of the recipes, and the cutting board. Although I think we can put the cutting board on top of something. I can't remember how it works though, it's been a while. We'll put these up in the tool rack, and now I need to go grab some food to show you how this works. I will be right back with a bunch of food. Alright, so I brought all my food up here. So I did discover something pretty hilarious on accident. So I was holding a wild berry when I opened the refrigerator door, and while I know this can happen, I forgot the wild berry was a dye, and it dyes the refrigerator. I don't quite want a red refrigerator here, I'm going to leave it white for now, but I thought that was pretty hilarious. But you come in here and you can see that I have a whole bunch of food stored in here. If you look quickly, you can see that it's inside the refrigerator, same with the drawers. I have a bunch of food just scattered throughout here. You can see the oven is all set up for cooking, all of the tools are in here now. And none of that matters for the most part because you just come up to the cooking table now and you right click and it will show you all of the recipes you have available to you. What it won't do is show you things that have subcomponents that you don't currently have made. So like one of the big ones would be stock right here, soup stock. So if we just make a bunch of it right now, we have that, and we can just now look at this, and now there should be a bunch of soups available if I can find any. But there should be now some new recipes in here. Not that I can find any of them because I don't remember what I'm looking for here. You would think I would actually have an example of this. Yeah, like garden soup right here. So there are a handful of new ones, but that's what happens when you make these other ones. So that's something. It also tells you if you eat them already, so you can just make a new one. You know, let's make an apple cider real fast, and then let's make an apple jelly real fast, and just start going down the list. And you know, you can just start reading those, and that'll increase the number of hearts that I have over time. So this at least makes that really, really, really easy to make all the new foods and all the new stuff you need to make. Eventually you'll have to go trawling through the recipes yourself to discover what you don't have in stock. But eventually we will automate all of this and slave it to our refrigerator. And then we'll be able to just pipe everything in from our farms. One of the other things I wanted to show you was the garden site that I got out of one of the loot chests a while back, because I forgot how completely ridiculous that is. Oh, and I forgot about the sugarcane. I forgot to show you this. So, in Rustic, there's a thing called fertile soil, which allows you to plant sugarcane not next to water. So you can just create it with a normal farm and just put it right next door. It doesn't really speed it up or do anything else special, but it does just let you put it in a line and not worry about water. So, but the garden site, we just hit it right like that and everything pops for the most part. It's pretty silly, but you can harvest almost everything at once in one fell swoop. Not something that really matters if you're just going to be automating it long term, but it's pretty funny at the time where we're not doing that. Well folks, we made some good progress today. Not the progress I expected since I accidentally made a windmill instead of a water mill, but we still got power, which is the actual goal for today. And we made a kitchen and made a bunch of food. So you know, I'm going to eat well for the next couple days at least, and that'll be good. So, as always, I'm Ard, and have a good day.